question.
Thank you, Seán Canney. Minister, I outlined to you previously, indeed to your predecessors, the absolute opposition of local communities in Meath, Monaghan and Cavan to the proposed North-South interconnector. Those views are shared in the affected areas north of the border as well. The views of those communities have not been listened to by EirGrid or by the department or by your predecessors in that ministerial office either. A clear message from local communities, both North and South, Minister, is that if this project is to proceed, then it needs to have community buy-in from local landowners and from communities, and that if the project is to go ahead, then those transmission cables need to be put underground, as is happening with other major projects throughout Europe. And indeed, Minister, you are aware that some transmission cables that are overground at present in other parts of Europe are actually being put underground at present. Thank you, and Seán Canney.
Deputy, I'll answer the question as it was framed. First of all, the North-South connector is critical to improving the efficient operation of the single electricity market and increasing security of energy supply across the island of Ireland. A resilient and well-connected energy infrastructure is vital to Ireland's economic well-being and the ability to respond to the future needs of energy consumers. In December 2016, An Bord Pleanála granted planning permission for the project in Ireland, while in January 2018 full planning permission was granted for the section of the line that lies in Northern Ireland. Both of the planning decisions have been subject to legal proceedings in each jurisdiction. In Ireland, the Supreme Court appeal of the planning permission was dismissed in the 19th of February 2019. In Northern Ireland, on the 8th of February 2019, the Department for Infrastructure asked the High Court to quash the planning permission given so that the planning application could be redetermined under new legislation introduced by the Secretary of State in Northern Ireland in November 2018. The planning process in Northern Ireland is a matter for the authorities there. There are currently a number of ongoing procurements in relation to the project being undertaken and managed by ESB Networks. In June 2019, ESB Networks awarded a framework contract for the design, test and supply of steelwork in relation to the project. However, under this framework, there will be no supply of materials until the planning process in Northern Ireland is complete. The earliest possible date for construction to commence will be in 2020.
Canney for his reply. Minister, do you have any idea when the determination will be finalised in respect of the planning project in Northern Ireland? And how can a procurement process proceed, if even in its initial stages, if there's not planning permission? Minister, I mentioned the last day here to your colleague that we were told some years ago that the lights would go out in Northern Ireland if the North-South interconnector was not proceeded with as a project within a very short time frame. Now, the most recent electricity generation reports published by EirGrid and the system operator for Northern Ireland, Sunny, they indicated clearly that there's a surplus of energy supply in Northern Ireland at the present time. None of us are against the all-Ireland electricity market. We favour all-Ireland development of the all-Ireland economy. But, Minister, you will be aware from your department officials, and should be aware from EirGrid, if they are reporting correctly to the department, that communities in Meath, Monaghan and Cavan, similarly in Armagh and Tyrone, are vehemently opposed to the project as it is proposed at the present time. And, Minister, communities deserve to be listened to. Most public representatives in Meath, Monaghan and Cavan have attended numerous public meetings where hundreds and hundreds of people turned up to outline their concerns and their total opposition to the EirGrid proposals as they are constituted at present.
Thank you, Deputy. And I suppose the first thing, when you say about a surplus of energy, I think there is a very definite need for this North-South connector. It's critical to ensuring that we have a safe, secure supply of electricity throughout the island of Ireland. It also supports the core objectives of European and national energy policy, namely sustainability, security of supply and competitiveness. In summary, the benefits associated with the project would include competitiveness will be increased by reducing costs for energy consumers through more efficient operation of the electricity system across the island of Ireland. A key barrier to the efficient operation of the single electricity market since 2007 has been the limited interconnection between the electricity systems in Ireland and Northern Ireland. With only one high-capacity interconnector between the two electricity systems, they cannot operate as a single system. This limits the benefits that can be derived from the single electricity market, and this project will ensure that the efficiencies of the single electricity market are fully realised to the benefit of the energy consumers. And just in relation to the planning, first of all, security of supply will be increased. And going back to the issue about the planning process has been dealt with. There is a planning process there. It's gone to judicial review. And that's the process by which these projects are brought forward.
Final comment.
The commission was granted by a public servant in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, there's not a political system in place there at the minute, unfortunately, due to the intransigence of the DUP and Sinn Féin. Minister, this is not about opposition to the development of the all-Ireland electricity market. Far from it. And the people and the landowners and the people living in those communities who are very concerned about the proposal at the present time are not opposed to the development of North-South Interconnector, but they want it developed, if it's necessary, on the basis that the transmission cables will be put underground and not overground and be a complete blight on the countryside and would hinder development in the years to come for those communities in a large part of our country, both north and south. Minister, what's proposed by EirGrid at the present time, and EirGrid have continued to refuse to listen to the concerns of public representatives in those counties and to local communities. People are not opposed to a north-south interconnector, provided those transmission cables are put underground, as is happening with major projects throughout many other countries in Europe. And it's totally disingenuous for anybody, any minister or any statutory agency, to try to suggest that people who are opposed to the North-South interconnector as proposed at the present time are opposed to the North-South electricity market. Far from it. We welcome all Ireland economic and all Ireland developments.
Final comment, Minister.
Just to say that I, as Minister, or Senior Minister, Mr Bruton, would never say anything about that, say anything like that, and I don't think anybody has said that. I think the important thing here is that there has been a planning process. There's also been a review of how, if it was undergrounded, and my belief is that, my understanding is that the cost of doing that would be 3 times more than what it is at the moment. And basically what we're trying to do is create an interconnector that would provide competitiveness, would provide security of supply and sustainability. And I do appreciate that people will have concerns about it, but when the planning process has gone through and it's gone right up to judicial review, and the judicial review states what it says, that's all independently carried out. It's not done by ministers, not done by the department, it's done by the planning authority, and that's what they're there for, and for Bord Planola, and a judicial review is followed as well.
Minister,